Hello, Kira here at Unfurl, and I have a purring cat here. That's Mabel. Hello, Mabel. Just in case you hear a strange sound and you wonder what's going on. So today's video is to share an experience that I've had over the last few days, and it was a bag of diaries that I retrieved from my parents' attic, my diaries, and they were diaries that covered from age about 13 up until 22, which was when I went, no, 24, which is when I went off to Australia. So I was just reading through these diaries the other day, and I was reading through the section of my life when I was about 20 and 21. And it was really heartbreaking because I was pretty messed up back then. I was a young actor. I just set out into the acting world. I was getting acting jobs. I was living in London at the time, but I was kind of getting jobs between London and Belfast and Birmingham and Dublin. So I was just on the move all the time. But throughout all of this, all I was writing about was how fat I was, how much I'd eaten that day, that I'd had a big binge. And I really was in the middle of a really full on eating disorder at the time. I was bulimic at the time. And it was my whole world. That was all I thought about all the time. And at the same time, I was so caught up in how I looked. I felt I was too ugly or I wasn't beautiful enough. So that's what I used to write. I'm not beautiful enough to be in film, or if only I could be more beautiful. Well, if I could be thinner, then I might be thin enough. And it was all so warped. It was all so warped. But that was my reality at that time. And I was drinking so much. I was going out with friends and getting absolutely hammered, and I was kissing guys, but I wasn't even interested in them. But all the time, just so lonely. But I hardly mentioned emotions at all. The only language that I really covered was fat, how much I weighed that morning, what I'd eaten, what I didn't eat, how bad I felt, or I'd swing between feeling awful about myself to feeling amazing and feel so positive and everything's going to be okay. And then the next day, or later that same day, just down in the pits of despair again. And it was just so frantic and so chaotic. And at one point it got so bad that I'd been doing a play and I was in a bit of a bad place. And so my mum had organised for me to meet with a therapist who specialised in eating disorders. And I met with her, but I knew I was only going to be able to do a few sessions with her because then I was going to be moving back from where that play was back to London, where I was living at the time. But in those few sessions, what came up was how I didn't feel comfortable letting people see anything other than me when I was up, when I was happy. So if after the play finished in the evenings, I didn't feel like I was in a good place in myself, I'd either go straight home, or if I had the energy, I would put on a happy face. And in my diary, I'd written about the session with the therapist where I had said, I don't really feel people would like the real me. And the therapist had said, well, who is the real you? And I felt that I was bad and boring. I felt so sad when I read that because I realized that I really believed back then that I had to be happy and funny and witty and positive all the time. I felt like that was the me that I was meant to be, and that the other stuff, the deeper feelings, the heavier feelings, angry, sad, fearful, that couldn't show those to people because feeling those feelings made me bad. I didn't even know I felt those feelings. All I carried was a feeling of I'm bad. I didn't realize I had unconsciously come to think of myself as bad for having those feelings. So somewhere along the line in my childhood, I had picked up the message, it's not okay for me to feel those things. It's not okay. I have to only be this shiny version of myself. But that was why I carried the secret feeling of I'm bad. Or if people heard this kind of stuff, if I spoke to them that I was having a down day, or if I was upset about something, that they would find me boring. So somehow I believed I had to entertain people. Oh gosh, when I think about it, I felt sad. I actually cried because as I read it, because I felt so sad for that girl, that 21-year-old girl who felt so disconnected from her own feelings, who felt so bad for having feelings. She didn't feel she had the right, or that it was okay to have feelings. So it really told me how much I had to push my feelings out of my awareness, which is why I drank so much. And I wrote every now and again how lonely I felt, just this loneliness, and I wanted to meet somebody. But when I met a nice guy that I had a relationship with, I found lots of reasons to be critical of him, and I kind of pushed him away because, and then I had an affair with a guy who was married, and he treated me so badly. I was a puppet on a string, and he basically would just call up every now and again. And I, like a little puppy dog, I was so high and so happy when I would hear from him, and then he would disappear, and then I would be just heartbroken. And then he would appear months later, and I just hung on, and I hung on for quite a long time, wanting more. But now, of course, I'm looking at that and I realize, because I felt so bad about myself, but didn't even know why, it was why it was so difficult for me to be in an intimate relationship with somebody nice who was emotionally available. Because then if they were around me consistently, they would see those aspects of me, and I couldn't show anyone that. I couldn't be honest and open with people. I couldn't let them see the real me, because my fear was, if they see the real me, they'll discover I'm boring and bad, and they'll leave. So they were the beliefs I had come to hold, which I didn't even realize at the time. If I show my feelings, my anger, my sadness, my fear, people won't love me. Somehow I had created that belief. So it was really quite shocking. And in some ways, I feel like by reading those diaries, I'm now able to feel the feelings that have been sitting there since I was in my 20s. And those feelings that I had in my 20s, or those beliefs I had, they'd come from my childhood. So I'd already been carrying them that long. And by the time I was 20 or 21, I thought I was going mad. I thought I was losing my mind. My thoughts, I was so, as I said to the therapist, my mind is so constantly busy with negative thoughts about myself. I feel like my head's about to explode. And I can understand why my head was so busy, because I was desperately trying not to feel the feelings. I was trying to ignore the feelings that were going on within, which was desperate loneliness and a whole other range of emotions that I've come to be very at ease with. And I almost feel like I've gone back in a time machine now to rescue her from there and say, come with me. You are so lovely and so lovable, and everything that you're trying to hide from people is so normal. Everybody feels this way. Everybody feels these feelings. Everybody feels angry or jealous or sad, despair, and all the good stuff as well. They're all part of the fullness of being human. That we don't have to live over here in the shiny part of ourselves only. There's this whole other aspect of us, our shadow part, the part that we've pushed away, rejected because our family rejected it, and we've come to think of these aspects of ourselves as bad and wrong, and I'm flawed and I'm unlovable. It's not true. It's not true. All those feelings are what makes us human. They're human. They're just feelings. Everyone feels these things. We don't have to act on them, but feeling them is what makes us human. So I'm so grateful to be alive now. I'm so grateful to come to know myself as a lovable person. And my journey continues. I've come so far, and I know that there's more loving and more caring and sharing towards myself and others to do. But I know that at times in the past, things have got so dark that I did want to end my life. It was so painful to live like that. So I am so grateful that I have hung in there so that I can come to this place now of healing, and that I get to share my healing, what I've learned along the way, with other people on their healing journey. And that's my clients that come into the therapy room. A lot of what they bring in, I can relate to it. And I know that you can come out the other side of it. And so I'm saying that to you now. If you're lost in the dark right now with an eating disorder, or if you feel like you're bad, I'm telling you now, you are not bad. You are human. Everything that you are feeling, everyone feels those things. They are human. And it's all okay. It's all okay. You are a lovable human being. So hang in there and find the person who can hold your hand while you come out of the dark. Okay, lots of love.